Before we start the share, just remind you to download the handout. It's 2 pages. You can follow a few Marmakamis for the share. The reasons for eating milchiks on Shavuos are many. And you'll see on the handout, the 2nd page, I summarized them into 10 basic reasons. There's more, there's Ramazim. But I'm going to focus now for the share on 3 of them. 3 of them are referred to in various sichas, and I'd like to work out how they work together, and which one is the most important one, and which one could be a hemshich to the other one, based on various sichas. Now, there are no mugadik sichas, complete sichas on explaining why we eat milchiks. 2 mugadik sichas we're going to deal with. We're going to mention the subject is something different from Mechali Cholav on Shavuos, and the Rechagav there brings in about Mechali Cholav. So Lav Dafka the Rebbe is endorsing that reason as being the most important reason, but definitely it's a reason that we connect to the other reasons that the Rebbe spoke about. Now, the most popular, but the most recent I say it's just about 200 years old reason is that the story which is easy to tell to children, cheder, anywhere, that after Matan Torah, it's a zeicher to what happened the day of Matan Torah. We came back from Har Sinai, and there was no fleishiks. We discovered kashrus and shchita and so on. And the lashon is huchruchu. We had no choice. We had to eat milk. We had to have milchiks. Now, this reason, being very popular, but it sounds like it's a zeicher l'churban, like a nebach. It's a chesara, not a maila l'chayra. We just had the greatest experience in history. Panim b'fonim, the Rebbe spoke to us, and what's our reaction? We remembered that we missed out our warm lunch that day. So it's a nice story, but where's the teichen? Where's the message? So we'll see how this fits in with a more previous reason, which goes back to 400 years, 500 years, is the one brought Shulchan Aruch. Ramah brings it, Shulchan Aruch. That's a zeicher to shtei halechem, a special shtei halechem that was brought on Shavuos. And in order to make a zeicher for that, like we do a zeicher for the Korban Pesach, Korban Chagiga, through 2 things, the Zreya and the Beitza on the Seder, and the Kaida, so too, we want to have shtei halechem. What makes it have shtei halechem? Why should I have 2 loaves of bread for a Seder? 1 loaf is enough. I mean, we make lechem mishnah, but we eat from 1 loaf. So therefore, we have 2 types of meals. One is milk, one is basar. And since you're not allowed to have share the same loaf of bread for both, as a result, we end up having 2 different loaves of bread, and that becomes a zeicher. So this is a sort of a musical reason on halacha, on zeicher lemigdash, and so on. Then you have probably the oldest reason, but why it's not so popular, it's the least exciting reason, is, you'll hear the reason, from the Kolba that goes back 600 years, 700 years. The reason is because there's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim, Dvash v'cholev tachas l'shaynech, that the Torah is compared to honey and milk, was considered like a delicacy, a sweet and easily digestible food. And so, like it's always praised with Erzav's called Dvash, from the Dvash v'cholev. So, and the Torah is compared to Dvash v'cholev. Now, the Rebbe quotes this reason many times, but also points out that in Gemara, this pasuk is used to describe the specific part of the Torah called Maisim Kava Tachas L'Shaynech, that you hide, not supposed to be Mefarsimid, and the Rebbe says it applies to Penimis HaTorah. So it's a very specific application, not the whole Torah, but more specifically Penimis HaTorah. Just derech agav, it's a nice reason I came across this year. One more reason, in addition to all the reasons, it's based on a Rashba that we know the Medor Rabba Laraisa because Kafalem Harke Gigas, and therefore we felt that we have an excuse not to keep it until the story of Purim and Kiblu Baratzin. So, but the Rashba says that in Eretz Yisrael, they had to keep it. They had no excuse. Because he explains why, if it's Medor Rabba, why was based Bais Rish and Nechrav before the story of Purim? So he said Eretz Yisrael is a different story because in Eretz Yisrael, that's our rental. We pay because the Eibishter gave us a land, so we owe the Eibishter. So in Eretz Yisrael, there's no excuse. But before and after Eretz Yisrael, till Purim, we had an excuse. So this is an interesting proposal that the minig of having dvash and cholov began in Eretz Yisrael to remind Yidden that you are now living in the Eibishter's land, Eretz Zavos Chol Dvash, and therefore the Medor Rabba is suspended. You have no excuse. And because we started the minig B'zman Abayis Rishon, the minig continued even after Nes Purim, when we don't need to be reminded about Zavos Chol Dvash. Anyway, we have to keep Blue Baratzin. And there's not a reason. But you see the Dogish and Dvash V'cholov, which is, we'll soon see from the Rebbe, that this is the primary reason. Least exciting, but the main reason. And from that, we are able to have a better understanding of the other reasons as well. Because this is the most teichendik reason. It makes it very clear. You have to... Teire is a gishmak ezach. Limud Teire is a timing like dvash v'cholov. So, the first time I think that I spoke about it was Shavuos Tavshin Yud Gimel. This is in Teres Menachem Chelik Ches Amud 210. The Rebbe brings this reason. That one of the reasons given is because they were told to shchita and they couldn't shecht or Shabbos. And they had to make do with machali chol of milchiks, and therefore we have milchiks. The Rebbe is not happy with this reason for two reasons. One is why would the Eibishter arrange things that we should miss out on Simchas Yom Tov? We just received the Torah, Kabbalah Torah, it's a Yom Tova, and suddenly we should be deprived of celebrating it with basar. And then the Rebbe asks another question. It's a whole arichas dikilamdus. That the Avos kept the whole Torah. So they did Shchita. So the Shchita before Matan Torah, you could say they were not Bar Zvicha. They didn't have Goyim, not Bar Zvicha. We know that if a Goy shechts, even under supervision, and he did everything al pi halacha, kedas v'chedin, is the Shchita is Nevela. The Idach Gisa, if a Yid, even a Kotten, who is irresponsible, they can't trust him, but if you supervise the Shchita, then the Shchita is kosher. There's something about a Yid versus a Goy when it comes to Shchita. Shchita is Hakim Nevela, he's not a Bar Zvicha. So before Matan Torah, we had the din of Hakim, Ben Noyach, and therefore, not a Bar Zvicha, and therefore the Shchita doesn't work. So the Rebbe brings different rayas in Al Pi Nigla, that since the B'Shas Ma'aseh, the Shchita was, the Shchita we did was, that's the most we could do at the time, and it was kosher for the status we had before Matan Torah. So therefore it should work after Matan Torah. But we'll see later on in the latest sichas, the Mugadik sichas, that the Rebbe does accept this svara that we're not a Bar Zvicha, and therefore all the fleishigs was not kosher. But the maskane in this sich on Tavshin Yud Gimel, this Fabrengen, is a korchat tzarich lei. What the Rebbe concludes, you have to say that the reason why we have machali cholov is like some other reasons. And the only reason the Rebbe actually mentions is this reason. Dvash v'cholov tachas l'sheinech. Now, we see different you have two sources on your sheet. Ha'ara 28 and Chelik Ches, and also Fabreg and Tavshin and Aleph, that the Rebbe does accept this reason. But we'll soon see in the Sichas how the Rebbe makes a few adjustments to this reason. The reason of because came a new mitzias in the Tashon Al Fabrengen, emphasis shchita al Fabrengen was a yechidus by mitzvah. Shchita the shchita the mitzias of shchita al potato was in the schadish. Could be the Rebbe is explaining a new way of looking at it. It's not pshat the shchita before. Okay, we did a shchita before, it was okay for them, but after Matan Torah, the shchita is for a different reason. It's a complete different mitzias. Like we became a different mitzias, so maybe whatever we did till then, maybe it doesn't count. Maybe there must be some way of explaining that. Now let's see how the Rebbe Derech Agav in two sichos, Mugadige sichos, brings this reason of because we didn't have any kosher fleishiks, and how the Rebbe makes a few adjustments to the way it was presented by earlier svarim. The first one is the Chelik Ches. So the sugi over there is about Shabbos, the first Shabbos after Matan Torah. Although the Torah is given on Shabbos, the Rebbe says that Shabbos, the moment the Eibishter said Zochas Yom Shabbos Ekadshay, the Shabbos was cancelled. They no longer had to keep Shabbos because Shabbos, Shmira Shabbos is a result of the Metzias of Shabbos. The Metzias of Shabbos could only be Chal once you have a complete Yom HaShvi, a mess less of the seventh day of the week. And the Shmira Shabbos that they started keeping till Matan Torah was because of Mora. They were told in Mora to keep Shabbos. But the moment during Shabbos, at that moment, the Eibishter Zochas Yom Shabbos Ekadshay, now they have to keep Shabbos because of Matan Torah, not because of Mora. So it's a different Shmira Shabbos. And this new Chiv Shmira Shabbos is not being Chal on a complete 24-hour Yom HaShvi. Therefore, it wasn't Chal at all. That's why it was Maskana, it wasn't Shabbos. And based on that, the Rebbe says, now in Ha'ara 47, which I quote to you, the whole Mishnah Berurah, the Rebbe says, now we understand why the Mishnah Berurah, when he gives this reason, he doesn't say that the reason why I didn't have fleishtiks because you couldn't shecht on Shabbos. You couldn't shecht, you couldn't cook, you couldn't prepare meat on Shabbos. He uses losha, you need hachana, rabba, lots of preparation, the fisha, temporarily fisha. So it wasn't Issa Shabbos, which is also a whole day. The chayre, from this you can come to a maskana that in addition to the sudas of macholi cholev, which you had at the beginning, right after Matan Torah, later on in the day, as long as they did the work, they were able to have also sudas psari, which could answer the first question in Shavuos Tavshni and Gimel. And in the end, they did have a sudas Yom Tov or sudas Shabbos with basar, in simcha basar, because just the first suda couldn't be right away. It took time, but there was no Issa, there's no Issa Malacha on that Shabbos because it wasn't Shabbos. Now, we asked before, is there a message in this type of according to this minig? Now, the way the Rebbe's diik in this Mishnah Berurah, that it wasn't that they were not allowed to make basar, just that they couldn't have for the first meal. There is a message over here that because Shmira Shabbos didn't exist, therefore also Einig Shabbos they were deprived, because Zocher v'Shalom Medibarecha, you can't have just a fun of Zocher without the responsibilities of Issa Malacha of Shomer, Yom Shabbos, and therefore because Shmira Shabbos was suspended because it was cancelled halfway through Shabbos, as we said before, because it's a new kind of Shabbos and it wasn't Chal on a 24-hour period. Therefore, also, the Eibishter made it. It worked out that way. Everything was uzgerechent, that they shouldn't have the Suda Shabbos, the traditional Fleishik Suda Shabbos, straight after Matan Torah. They should have milchiks. Now we'll return to the next Marim Mokim, is where Rebbe refers to this in the Chelik Yud Ches, Pashas Matos, second Sicha Matos. Now again, the sugi is not about Macholei Cholev. The sugi is about Tfilas Kelim. The Rebbe is mechadish that Tfilas Kelim is a hemshech of kashrus. That the reason why he tabled the Kelim is because they had the Afsharis for the guy was Afsharis for the Kelim to be used for treif. That Afshari requires Tfilas Kelim, and therefore when it comes to Mechiras Chametz, our minig is that we Al Rebbe Paskins you do sell the Kelim to the guy, although some disagree. The Rebbe says there's no problem with buying it back after Pesach. There's no chiv to table the Kelim, although it belonged, it was B'shus HaGoy, because the reason Tfilas Kelim is the Afsharius of using it for Tarfus, and because Ruba and it's not Shchich, the guy should actually access the things that we sell, therefore there's no chiv of Tfilas Kelim, although it belonged to the guy over Pesach. And then the Rebbe gives a second example is the meaning of achilas of eating machali cholav on Shavuos, which is very interesting. The Rebbe's medayik. Minig Yisrael is not just to have some milk and butter. The minig is machali cholav, a proper suda, dishes, milky dishes. Now, milky dishes are made in kalim. If kalim were treif, the way it's described, kalim were treif. So there's no warm food, no warm meals, not even milchike, warm food. The way we look at the pashtus, the word nizir and kashrus. So the Rebbe says you have to say that they were nizir and kashrus, and they knew they knew that they're going to have to keep all the mitzvahs. So they learned basa b'cholev, and they had a proper milchike kitchen separate from fleishik. And the milchike kitchen 100% kosher, and therefore the kelim were also kosher. And there's no sharius of using for treif, and therefore there's no chiv of tvilas kelim of tevling. The fleishik kitchen was also be'etzem kosher for them. But then they were not a bar zvicha until Matan. The shchita before Matan Torah was made by not bar zvicha. It didn't have a status of a yid, and therefore there was no way. Even if there were all the preparations, all the achanas in the world could not enable them to have fleishiks for this first suda after the Torah was given, because they just became bar zvicha after shechted now. So, according to this, it comes out it wasn't sudden. It wasn't like they were deprived and they had nothing to eat. They were able to make, maybe they covered Shabbos, they covered Yom Tov. They had to make a bimkaim basa. They made a full-fledged milchike meal to make up for it. Like the Gulas Yisrael, what the Rebbe quotes, is they would keep Shabbos and they prepared in advance. And if you have no flesh, so you prepare advanced milchiks, whatever you can, in order to for Enik Shabbos. They had to keep Shabbos until Matan Torah, until the Zachar Shabbos Akache. So they prepared machali cholav in a choshev way, in advance. And that's a maskana of the Rebbe. Now I came across, I gave the Mara Mokim a sefer called Tildas Yitzchak. He brings, the Mishnah Berurah says go to Lechad, but he brings from the Barditchev and some other seifers has Chassidish sources. Now, the way you read carefully, the way it's written, the name of the Barditchev, it comes out that he has both of the Rebbe's diyukim are incorporated in his words. First, he says v'le hispik lahem azman. They didn't have enough time. He emphasizes not Shabbos. That's the first dik of the Rebbe in Chelik Ches, that it's not about Shabbos. So in other words, they could have had basar as a second meal of the day to make up for missing out in the morning. And also, the second chiddush of the Rebbe in Chelik Yud Ches, he says that hutla basar nechira, and then he says, doesn't mention all the kelim were treif. He says they need a sakin shel shchita. It's about shchita, not about the whole kitchen being treif. And he also says va'asu su'udis. It sounds like there was a su'udis. There was something more major. Okay, that dik is not 100%. But now we see that there is a teichen also in, according to the way that explains now in Chelik Yud Ches, that they were able to have a proper sudas. A proper suda of machali chalav. What is the message of it? Also a very strong message. That what changes a guide to a yid? The Eibishter himself. Nobody could do that besides the Eibishter. All the preparations, kept all the rules of kashrus, and basa b'chalav was separate, and the machali chalav and basically the milk kitchen was 100% kosher, but the shinui from Ben Yisrael Amim, the shinui of becoming a yid and becoming a bar zvicha, that's something which you have no power. That's milamayla, and that's something which is not koyach, and all the achanas is not enough for that. So that's so you already have some kind of message. It's not just zeichel l'churban, the fact that we couldn't eat milchiks, fleishiks, and we had to make do. But then we see, bringing different Maramikaimas, how the Rebbe keeps going back to the reason of Dvash v'cholev tachas l'sheinach. And in this Yichidus, Tesiv and Tavshin and Aleph, the Rebbe noch connects the machali cholav, the machali basar. Machali basar, he says, just like in Shavuos, There's an emphasis on lechem. You're not allowed to fast, even time is Shalom. You have to show simcha begashmis over the fact that the Torah. That means you have to show you're happy with the Torah in a gashmistic way through egla tilta. He speaks about the basar, and then it connects. And the vash v'cholav is similar. It's also a physical demonstration of our appreciation of the Torah. Now let's see how the three reasons can be connected. That although this practical reason, this historic reason of the Yidden not having fleishiks, only milchiks, at least for the first meal, how it's actually very much bringing out, and it's a hemshech to the original reason, advash v'cholov, of having a gishmak. That means they made sure that they should have a gishmak, and dafka have cholov has its own gishmak, dvash v'cholov, and it wasn't like a mistake, and it was planned in advance, like the Rebbe says, with hachana rapsi, a big hachana, l'kovit Shabbos, because they knew they won't be able to have fleishiks. And even the fleishiks that they made on Shabbos possibly didn't take as long as you would think, because they didn't have to kash anything. They could kash everything in advance. The only thing they had to do is do the shchita, the actual shchita. From that point on, was shchita and cooking. But otherwise, everything was ready for the actual day. They had to turn to bar zvicha as a result of Matan Torah, and then they kishecht and have it. So, the next piece is the Magen Avraham versus Alter Rebbe. It's a dik, Shavuos Tafshin Chafei. The Rebbe is medayik in the Alter Rebbe how you change the Magen Avraham. Which, by the way, the Alter Rebbe in Shavuos, it gives different reasons for different menhagim, which is filled with menhagim, gilas rus and flowers and being up at night, tikkun lo Shavuos. But it comes to milchiks, the Alter Rebbe does not give any reason. In fact, he just accommodates all the reasons in one go. So you see the lashon, but the Magen Avraham also said that. Magen Avraham says yesh harbe taimim, and then he gives one reason, and then he concludes the meaning of a sin Torah here. So b'pashtu, what does it mean? Lots of reasons. You don't like one, you find another reason. But in case you don't like any reason, still he concludes meaning of a sin Torah. You have to follow a minig. It's a chelik of Torah. Now the Rebbe reverses it. He says meaning of a sin Torah here. Why? Because harbet hamim nemra olav. What does that mean? That it's only the minig is only valid because harbet hamim. It sounds like we have to justify. Don't worry, if you don't like one reason, find another reason. But and if one reason not enough, it sounds like you need lots of reasons to make everyone happy. To justify minig avesenu. It weakens, it undermines the tkifas of a minig. A minig is special because it's minig avesenu. So to answer that, the Rebbe first is medayik the lashon Torah here. Really, minig avesenu is a mitzvah. Minig avesenu is a chayv. What's Torah? Torah is even from limud. The Rebbe explains it's exactly what we're pointing out over here. Now, the Rebbe, Magen Avraham also says Torah here that the mitzvahs all have something, have one nekuda. It's doing the Eibish's rotzen. It's Mekayim Tivei Hashem. Torah is Havana Vasaga. Havana Vasaga leads to Gishmak. In Tainug there's different levels. There's chalkas, there's riboy, there's multiple pleasures. So different reasons, different dimensions of learning. There's Tainug. And what we're saying is that minig avesenu, the minhagim, although they don't appear anywhere in Torah Shebichsav or in Torah Shebal Peh, nevertheless, we have the koyach to take a minig and make it part of Torah. In other words, to turn it into something that has avana vasaga, that is gishmak, and is upgraded to the mile of Torah. Torah. And we're being madgish the mile of minig Yisrael, dafke in eating macholi cholov and shavuos. So it's all meyusad. The Rebbe explained out the Rebbe that it's meyusad on the original reason. Odvash v'cholov tachas l'sheinech. You should know that Torah is as gishmak as dvash v'cholov. So this minig of eating of achilas chalav on Shavuos is actually the minhag which explains all minhagim, which defines all minhagim. That every minhag is like what is consistent with the message of achilas chalav on Shavuos, which is about the original reason of achilas chalav is that to remember the gishmak and Torah. And then in the Lashon of the Rebbe, that why is it? How does it become part of Torah? Minig Avosenu ki harbe timim, because we put time in because there's a gishmak, and if there's a gishmak, there's harbe. There's a lot of details in the gishmak. It gets deeper and deeper and more interesting and more detailed, and therefore it's considered part of Torah. It's part of Torah. Then in the same Farbrengen, a sicha later, the Rebbe connected this reason of Machali Chalav, that remember the person has to have a gishmak of limited Torah, to the other reason, which is more like halachadik reason, as Eichel Migdash, because Shtei Alechem is made up of what? Of Sai eating basar and Sai eating chalav. And eating basar, you have to eat basar. You have to eat basar. You have to eat, not allowed to fast. As the Gemara says, that it's pleasing and it's enjoyable this day that we receive the Torah. It shows our gishmak and our joy in Torah. And the minig is, and the shtei lechem is made up of a combination of having two lechem and keeping it separate. So the cholav is an integral part of the minig of shtei lechem, linked to the other lechem of basar. So obviously keeping cholav and basar separately, that's the challenge. Keep it separately, but through keeping it separate, api halacha, and therefore there's a big kpeda on dafka and Shavuos to show, to be machmir, to show how we can keep it separate, and yet combine the two together and make one meaning of one zeicha of shtei halechem. So the basar, which is remembered by one and has infant simcha in it, obviously, and the other lechem and the shtei lechem, like twins. So also the second lechem, which is linked to cholav, also must have the dimension of einig and simcha. So we see the einig of the first reason already feeding into this the reason of shtei halechem. And then also adds that the simcha is visible, though it's a carbon, but we're saying that the shtei halechem, which are the mizbeach, that kedusha remains even as it ends up on our table and we're enjoying it. It's connecting the Eibishter's lechem with our lechem, and we're showing that guf, our physical body, is enjoying it. That we turn something which is be'etzem ruchnis dike, shtei lechem, a carbon, something ruchnis, mizbeach, something that our guf agashmi can enjoy it. The maskana from this turns out a few points. Number one, that the maskana the Rebbe already said in Tavshin Yud Gimel, and Dafke chose a reason, Dvash v'cholev tachas l'sheinech, remains throughout all these sichas and all these different michtavim, the main reason l'chayda. And more or less the questions the Rebbe asked were answered, because first of all it wasn't really Shabbos, and we could even have a Sudas Basa later on. And the second point in the Sikkim would be that it all brings out our Gishmak in Yiddishkeit, and it's not about missing out on a Suda B'saris. And all the other reason, if you go deeper into it, like the Rebbe's Medayik, in the Mishnah Berurah, and his Medayik in Tfilas Kelim, that they had to, that in the Sicher Chelik Yudches, that everything, the kitchen had to be kosher, otherwise they had to table even the milchik kelim, so everything had to be kosher, and they were keeping kashrus, and then machol cholav was a full spread. It wasn't just something to be yet, a quick cereal and milk. It was something more. So it's all l'chayre based on the side of dvash v'cholav tachas l'shenech, that the purpose of cholav is to bring out a Yiddishkeit is a geschmack thing, and we don't lose out. Matan Torah is not. It doesn't. There's no side problems coming out as a result. There's no setbacks. Even the delay in Sudas Basa was not seen as a delay. The Sudas Cholav in a way made up for it because of the advanced planning and knowing about it and doing a proper Suda with Macholi Cholav, not just milk and butter. And then we see how the Rebbe in Tafshin Chafei Shavuos connects to the main tam another reason Shtei Lechem. And as a result of that, we could take the liberty to connect other reasons also to the Tam Ikri. Connect, for example, the reason that another famous reason that to show the Malachim that they didn't keep Basa V'cholav when they came to Avram Avinu, and we do keep Basa V'cholav, that we keep them separate, that we know we don't get carried away. We have a lot of chol, a lot of basa, even on the same day, according to the Rebbe's Chiddush, that it wasn't Shabbos, able to have a Sudas basa. We have both of them, and yet we're able to keep. We're able to appreciate each one separately, despite the fact that both have the same principle and they both have infant simcha. Yet each one is given its full attention separately. And also the reason of because they didn't have they didn't have the milchiks, they didn't have the fleishiks right away. Again, we're saying they had it later on, so there was a element of shtei halechem, just exercising patience. It's the patience that you need between the milchiks and fleishiks. It's the waiting period. It's keeping the halachas, which is infant berurim, that makes us special. Not being deprived of any part of life. It's just keeping separate the different parts of life. All of them have an element of simcha and tainik, but keeping them separate from each other, each one at its right time, even on the same day, but a few hours in between. That's a tachlis, and that's shtei halechem. That means one mitzvah made up of two lechem. It's one minhag. That means in a way, if a person doesn't eat basar, some people are meikol, and the Rebbe was expressed disapproval on various occasions. People are meikol and not eating basar. The Rebbe says you're supposed to eat basar on Yom Tov. You're actually not just missing out on Sudas Yom Tov on the basar. You're also missing out on this on the minhag Yisrael of eating cholov. Because the whole point of eating cholov is to bring out shtei lechem, according to that reason, to bring out the ability to balance ourselves, unlike the Malachim who couldn't balance themselves and ate everything in one go, and also to bring out the tainug. So, if you're eating cholov and you're missing out on the tainug of basar, basically you're not tuning into the nekuda. The nekuda is tainug v'simcha, and since basar also brings simcha, so you have to do both, and then you're showing how you appreciate the tainug in each one. It's very interesting. The Rebbe says that it's based on the Gemara Chagiga, Daf Yud Gimel. Dvash v'chol specifically refers to Ma'aser Merkava, Tachas Hashenech. You have to keep it to yourself. Now it's different. It's Zamayonis, but Chayra maybe Derech Hevsha by demonstrating Agishmaki and Torah, aside through having a major milky meal, aside a major fleishik meal, what we're doing is we're pointing out that the Torah is Gishmak even when you compare it to Basar. There's a specific part of Torah which is compared to Cholov. That's Pnimis Torah. So we're pointing out there's two parts of it here, and both of them are Gishmak, and we're using different Mishalim, Cholav and Basar, and pointing out you can't have one without the other. And therefore you're not supposed to be mekel in any of the chumras that a person has all year long, waiting between milchiks and fleishiks. And look on the chart now, you see the nafkamina, that according to some reasons, you have to according to some reasons, just drinking milk is enough. If it's baby, we just mature, we just a geish and this guy got sheneled. We just were born, and if we're like new people, like I said, Bar Zvicha became a new person, so the milk is enough. According to some reason, it has to be dishes, it has to be macholi basar. Macholi cholav. Sorry, I didn't add because this is the chiddush based on the sicha that according to I think the third reason macholi cholav, you also have to have basar. According to the Rebbe's reason, according to the Rebbe Chelik Ches, that it wasn't Shabbos, so perhaps you also have to have macholi basar to bring out this point that we were 100% that we were 100% ready, and we had all the cholav, but it was Shabbos. It wasn't Shabbos. It was we couldn't have the basar simply because we were not a bar zvicha, but we were all ready for the basar. And the moment we could have the basar, we had it, the pile, and maybe we even had it on the actual day of Matan Torah itself. So therefore, eating a sudas basar actually enhances even this zeicher that happened in Matan Torah. And then you realize that the cholav is not a sign of churban, a deprivation. We lost out on eating basar. We're having basar, and before that, we have the cholav as an add-on, as an extra, another type, another like we said in Tainig. There's the multiple tainugim. There's ribri time, harbe timim, different flavors. So a specific type of gishmak in dvash v'cholav, a unique gishmak in that, and that you could only have in macholi cholav. So the macholi basar, with the proper separation, the patience, the discipline, and the shmira between the two, you're actually also enhancing and enjoying the macholi cholav. That's a tachas yiddishkeit, that everything is gishmak as long as everything is done in the right time at the right place. We should mekabel the Torah b'simcha uvepnimis. A pnimistic way of looking at each of these of the reasons, and in a way that we connect the different reasons, and each of the reasons will make machali chalav just more simcha and more simcha, and there should be no difference in the simcha we experience when we're eating chalav from the simcha that we experience when we're eating basar. For those who are traditional, a basar is considered a piteda, ain't simcha of basar. But the simcha and then the specific gishmak that chalav gives us should be just as gishmak. Basically, that the pnimis hatera has a unique tam, that we emphasize dafka in this reason, and it comes at the very first reason of dvash v'chol tachas l'shenich, which is at least popular, but the oldest reason is dafka highlighting the importance of pnimis hatera. And there also points out that Matan Torah, the nigla was more benister. Shenkin, the Meister Merkava and the Gila Lakus, that was more benigla. So we need to bring forward the very original reason, Dvash v'cholav, which Rebbe endorses in the Tavshin Yud Gimel and continue to refer to it, and then understand the other reasons, that they're just different ways of bringing out how cholav could be enjoyed. When you also have the basar, and it's not a stira, and you do shtei halechem together, and many other reasons. How to find a bigger gishmak in the cholav by thinking about the different reasons, the different heroes that you have in all the different reasons. Sei gesund, a gut Yom Tov.